You're in the land of the midnight sun. As you walk back to your hotel, you notice the warm glow on the weathered wooden buildings, unchanged in over a century. Below you, the wooden sidewalks make pedestrians sound like an army of undead is approaching. You take in a moment to take in the scene. It feels like you've traveled back through history and are now in a John Wayne movie and on a dusty trail of the American West. But you're not alone. Instead, you're in a city that was once known as the Paris of the North, even though today it's tiny, just 11 city blocks by 8, and it looks like it's been lifted from a Hollywood Western. This is the birthplace of the Klondike Gold Rush, when mostly men, and some women, travel through incredible hardship from all around the world to seek their fortune. You continue your walk to your hotel, passing many historic buildings, all lovingly restored, including the Klondike Cakes restaurant, Diamond Tooth Gertie's gambling hall, the Red Feather Saloon, and the Bonanza Market. However, as you turn down Princess Street, a beautifully vibrant 2-story yellow house catches your eye. You're drawn to it as you feel a presence watching you from the upstairs window. Taking another step closer, you're surprised to see a little girl looking out from the second-floor window. The 1900s dress seems odd, but you're willing to get closer. As you do, each step causes your stomach to drop, and suddenly you're feeling sick. You take a moment to gather yourself. You look up at the window and lock eyes with the girl. You blink, and in that moment, the little girl is gone. Hi everyone, I'm Nadine Bailey, and this is Haunted Canada. Join me as we venture north to Dawson City to explore one of the most haunted buildings in the Yukon. This is the Macaulay House. Whether you travel to Dawson City to experience the Northern Lights or to bask under the midnight sun, one thing is for certain. Once you land, you're met with an electric and vibrant northern community on the banks of the Yukon River. It boasts a mixture of First Nations heritage and gold rush history, blended with an active gold mining and tourism industry, as well as a thriving art scene. This may surprise you, but creative minds from all over the world have been hosted on the corner of Princess and 7th as part of the Klondike Institute of Arts and Culture's Artists in Residence program. They have made Macaulay House their home, and many have experienced unexplained occurrences. The house was built in 1901 in Victoria, British Columbia, and brought to Dawson in the early 1900s, and became the home of Henry C. Macaulay, Dawson City's first mayor. But to understand its significance to the city, you have to travel back in time to August 16, 1896, when an American prospector by the name of George Carmack and 2 Tangish men, Sukum Jim Quiche and Tangish Charlie, were traveling south of the Klondike River. The 3 experienced prospectors, or sourdoughs as they were referred to back then, were following a suggestion from Robert Henderson, a Canadian prospector, and began looking for gold on Bonanza Creek, then called Rabbit Creek, one of the Klondike's tributaries. It is not clear who discovered the gold first, but the group agreed to let George Carmack appear as the official discoverer because they feared that authorities would not recognize any Indigenous person as claimant. Regardless, they had found the motherlode, and Carmack measured out 4 strips along the river, 2 for himself and 1 each for Jim and Charlie, and these claims were registered the very next day. The second these were filed at the police post, news spread like wildfire to the other mining camps in the Yukon River Valley. In the next 2 weeks, all of Bonanza Creek had been claimed by miners. Shortly after, another prospector went up into one of those creeks feeding into the Bonanza, later to be named the El Dorado Creek, and discovered more gold. Just before Christmas, word of the gold reached Circle City, and despite winter conditions, many prospectors immediately left for the Klondike by dog sled, eager to reach the region before the best claims were taken. Canadian officials had managed to send a message to their superiors in Ottawa about the gold claims and the influx of prospectors, but the government didn't give it much attention. Meanwhile, as word spread, about 1,000 prospectors, miners, Northwest Mounted Police, missionaries, and others who called the Yukon home left their settlements and rushed to the area to stake a claim on the best ground. John Landau and Arthur Harper had been trading in the Yukon for years, and they were quick to purchase, stake, and establish the town site of Dawson. It was named after Canadian geologist George Mercer Dawson and would be located where the Yukon and the Klondike Rivers meet, about 20 kilometers from Discovery Claim. Winter passed, and by July 14, 1897, a stampede north was born. First in San Francisco, and then 3 days later in Seattle, when the first gold arrived from the early prospectors returning from the Klondike. They brought with them large amounts of gold on the ships the Excelsior and Portland. The press reported that a total of $1,139,000 had been brought in by these ships. That triggered a massive migration of prospectors who were joined by outfitters, writers, and photographers, all catching a bit of gold fever. An estimated 100,000 people set out to the Klondike to seek their fortune in the once pristine Yukon wilderness, which would quickly transform the quiet and isolated area into a cauldron of chaos and ambition. But first, fortune seekers would have to make the treacherous journey. Most left without knowing what it would take, traveling through perilous routes, uncharted landscapes, snow-choked mountain passes, and freezing rivers to stake their claim. Most would need to travel over 5,000 kilometers to get to Dawson City. By 1898, Dawson was quickly developing as the first wave of stampeders arrived, and with it, as many as 30,000, some say 50, pick-and-shovel miners, prospectors, storekeepers, saloon keepers, bankers, gamblers, sex workers, and adventure seekers took over the town. Most arrived to discover that the good claims had been staked in the previous 2 years. Faced with disappointment, many simply booked a return passage home, but others stayed and made fortunes through other endeavors. Money was not an issue in Dawson, as gold was in abundance, and businesses that catered to the gold-strapped miners thrived. This is around the time that Henry C. Macaulay established his store, as the city quickly swelled with the influx of fortune seekers to become the hub of debauchery and decadence. Henry Charles Macaulay was born in Lindsay, Ontario. He arrived in Victoria, British Columbia in 1887, and by 1890, he was the manager of the Victoria Coal, Wood, and Lumber Yard. He later worked as an accountant, and in his accounting practice, it included acting as a liquidator of failing corporations. During this time, he was the rear commander of the Victoria Canoe Club. On April 15, 1896, in Portland, Oregon, Henry married Marie Victoria Cameron. 2 years later, around 1898, Henry established a store in Dawson City in the Yukon Territory, although he still maintained a presence in Victoria. He set up a wholesale feed business and was very prosperous and well-liked in the growing community. The city had a reputation as a booming frontier town with gold-lined streets, but quickly transformed into one of the most bizarre and written-about towns in North America. As one might expect in a town where most of the inhabitants were men, brothels flourished, saloons rang with laughter and sorrow, and the promise of gold lured desperate souls into risking it all. Many working women opened what became known as cigar stores. These stores, a row of small houses, still stand in aptly named Paradise Alley. The protocol then was simple. If the blind was up, the customer was welcome to enter and, quote, buy a cigar. Sam Steele, head of the Northwest Mounted Police, said that it was a necessary evil to keep the men in line. Larger guest houses were run by characters like Ruby Scott and Bombay Peggy. Today, Bombay Peggy's is an elegant Victorian inn with an adjacent pub, which has hosted celebrities like Steve Martin and Jack Black. Meanwhile, Ruby's Place was Dawson's premier brothel from 1935 till 1962. The building today is a recognized federal heritage building, and Ruby Scott, the madam, has lasting significance. She became a pillar of the community, much loved by Dawson's more respectable men, women, and children. Her generosity was legendary, as was her reputation as a cook, hostess, and a good old soul. She supported every charity and good cause and was known to ring the bell whenever she went to the local watering hole. Ringing the large prominent bell at the downtown bar is a signal that the ringer is buying around for everybody in the bar, and it is still a Dawson tradition, so never ring the bell in Dawson unless you have very deep pockets. And what deep pockets they were. Between 1896 and 1899, close to $29 million worth of gold had been mined, and Dawson City was labeled the Paris of the North. It quickly became the largest city west of Winnipeg and north of Seattle. Overnight, millionaires roamed the streets seeking ways to spend their riches. The best food, drink, and clothing were all available for purchase at a high cost. Sadly, the boom went bust when the gold claims dried up by 1899, with many prospectors making their way to the beaches of Nome, Alaska, when gold was discovered there. Many of the same people who sought fortunes in the Klondike left Dawson. The gold rush had ended, and the town's population plummeted as all but 8,000 people left. Amidst the tumultuous background of boom and bust, Henry Macaulay became the first mayor of Dawson City on February 6, 1902, defeating his opponent, Dr. Thompson. He had a house built in Victoria, British Columbia, disassembled, and shipped by boat to Dawson in 1901, where it was reassembled on the corner of Princess and 7th Street. It would be a testament to his ambition and success. The house would bear witness to the rise and fall of fortunes and the passage of time. Henry Macaulay and his family lived and worked in Dawson City for many years, but eventually moved back to Vancouver, British Columbia, where he sadly passed away at the age of 74. On Monday, April 24, 1944, the Vancouver Sun newspaper described Macaulay as, quote, a pioneer Vancouver real estate operator, transformer, international president of the Sourdough Reunion Organization, including your Alaska Yukon pioneers, unquote. Back in Dawson City, after Henry left, the Macaulay House passed through many hands, each leaving their distinct mark. From affluent merchants to troubled youth and government offices, the house has seen it all, absorbing the energy of their joys and sorrows into its very walls. The Macaulay House became home to the Klondike Institute of Arts and Culture, which has offered an artist in residency program operating out of the house since 2001. Creative minds from all over the world have lived in one of the 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, and several former artists in residence report having seen ghostly figures which have led them to chilling encounters. Jude Griebel was a resident of the house in 2007 and spent over 18 months researching and collecting stories to use in his own artwork. The Vancouver-based painter and sculptor chronicled these ghostly encounters in a book he wrote called Footsteps of the Macaulay House. He shared his experience and findings in an article for the Yukon News, where he shared that a woman told him of a terrifying night that she spent face to face with the spirit of a child. The woman said that she awoke from a sound sleep by what appeared to be a young girl. She came into the bedroom and began moving towards her. The girl was trying to speak, but no words came from her mouth. The terrified woman shut her eyes in terror. After a few minutes, she opened her eyes and noticed that the spirit of the little girl had vanished and the bedroom was empty. Who was the ghost of the little girl, and where did she come from, would be a question that many would wonder about for years to come. Many of the stories Griebel has heard are remarkably similar, although those who've experienced the horrifying encounters come from all over the world, and many have never met each other. The ghostly figure of the young girl, dressed in antique clothing, has been seen over the years drifting through the rooms. Many have wondered where she came from, and although there's no definite answer to her presence, she isn't the only one. Halfway up the home's creaky L-shaped staircase, there's a landing that many people have trouble crossing, according to Griebel. They sense that something is there. The hair on their arms and necks stand up, and they feel physically sick. They have described a sense that there was someone or something standing directly next to them. Most people find themselves frozen in fear and unable to take a step as they feel being watched by unseen eyes tracking every movement with cold intensity. One artist described it to Griebel as, quote, trying to pass through a dark forest, unquote. Several of the residents have also had problems with a mysterious closet in one of the upstairs bedrooms. So if you're brave enough to make it past the landing on the staircase and enter the larger bedroom on the second floor, you'll find looming in the corner a closet with a darkness that defies explanation. On the inside door of the closet hangs an old mirror whose glass has been smoked with time. This is where people have seen unexplained shadows and seen a figure passing by the mirror, but only in the mirror's reflection, not in front of it. People have also heard whispers that chill their very soul. Griebel's ghost stories have also come from locals and elders in the community who have split on whether the house is haunted or not. For his part, he enjoyed his time at Macaulay House and told the Yukon News that, quote, I haven't actually seen anything, but I felt things, unquote. He also went on to say, quote, being in Dawson City, you're aware of all the history that has happened around you, and I believe that history can stain a place, unquote. Griebel found out about the residency program through former Yukon Arts Center gallery curator Scott Marston, who told him about the supernatural encounters at the Dawson City house, which immediately interested Griebel. Sadly, artists who are looking for their own experiences with the ghosts will be out of luck, as in 2025, Parks Canada is disposing of Macaulay House. The sale of the Dawson City property will leave the Klondike Institute of Art and Culture without a home for its artist in residency program. Whoever takes possession of the Macaulay House will have to be aware of the many spirits that still roam inside the historic home, still to this day. Thank you for joining me as we explore the historical and haunted story of the Macaulay House and the Klondike Gold Rush. Haunted Canada is sponsored by the Edmonton Ghost Tours. I will link it in the show notes. Haunted Canada is written and produced by me, Nadine Bailey, with senior producer Delia Vasquez. Production and sound design is by Rob Johnston, with help from Roslyn Kufer. If you would like to support this podcast, please follow and share, And if you can give us a like and a 5-star written review, that is always appreciated. Also, you can follow me on our different social media platforms, or if you have a ghost story, haunting, or true crime that you would like for us to cover on this podcast, please email me through the website hauntedcanada.com. Thank you from all of us at Haunted Canada and Curious Cast. Have a good night, everyone, and stay haunted.